Hey viewer, my name's EDDBUD and welcome to my channel. Here in the Shoe Sanctuary, I often review new running shoes, running gear, provide you with running news, all sorts of things running related. If you are a new viewer or you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell for notifications of when new videos are launched. And I'd really appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up like. So finally, my custom Pegasus 37s have arrived. They seem to have gone across the majority of the world to get to me, but they're here and in hand, and today I'm going to give you my initial review on the shoe. So some info on the colorway here. Quite a lot of you have commented on my Instagram post with my first photos of this one that you really like the colorway. Somebody said it looks a little bit like a McDonald's colorway. I guess it does. Can't even remember what McDonald's tastes like. It's been that long. So the upper here, I went for the Magic Ember. Mrs. EDDBUD reckons it looks orange, but it's definitely red in hand. And I've got an underlay of topaz gold. The midfoot band is actually racer blue. You can just about make it out through the upper section here, although it doesn't seem to be a colorway option available now. It's just disappeared. I went for the oversized Nike swoosh rather than the smaller one, again in topaz gold. Traditional lacing with the racer blue laces. Standard white midsole with a top line of the Magic Ember. I went for a standardized rubber bottom in the racer blue colorway. EDDBUD personalization. I call this one the Hot Rod. Kind of channels my 50s rock and roll leanings, and my main man Hot Rod from the Transformers series. He was an all-American Autobot who acts first and thinks later. I think he was always well-meaning though, and the internet says he had a top speed of 120 miles an hour. How does anyone know that? Quick specs before we head into the initial review, because I think quite a lot of my running shoe colleagues have covered this one already. Website states a 24mm heel and 14mm in the forefoot, so it's a 10mm drop. Looks more than that though. I think obviously those measurements are perhaps a little higher in my UK size 11. I put this one on the scales and it weighs in at 310 grams. So exactly the same weight as the Asics Novablast. I've recently reviewed that one. If you want to check it out, I'll place a card up on the screen somewhere, or I'll put it in the description as well. Cushlon is gone and React foam is in. Fly wires are gone, they've replaced them with these lace loops here. So I got out there this morning and this is what happened. Footage from my run there, back in the studio, and let's get into the review. Upper first. So it's a warm day out there, another 7 miles in these shoes today. First 7 miles, how did they feel? How was the upper in the heat? Coming up to the end of that run this morning, I'm certainly starting to feel quite warm in these shoes. Aside from the outside part of the upper, there's a mesh liner as well, and I'm starting to feel quite warm, even though I was wearing some very light Nike racing socks. I think temperatures were about 18 degrees early morning, so quite warm really for the UK. I appreciate that some of you out there in other countries run in much warmer temperatures, but I'm telling you now, this was quite a warm shoe even for our relatively mild British summertime. Certainly this shoe on foot has a more race fit than previous versions. It's absolutely more snug than the Pegasus 36 and the 35 that came before that. Far less toe box room here in my UK size 11, and the height of the toe box seems to be minimised as well. It didn't really cause me a problem on the run, but I could definitely tell it was a lot more congested in the front area of the shoe. Some of you might like that decreased room there, so you've got a more race fit, but as a gentleman who has a size 11 foot that is right at the end of Nike's size 11 threshold, this certainly is one of the snuggest Nike size 11s I've worn, the Alphafly feels positively spacious compared to this one. Like moving from a cramped first floor flat to a 4-bed semi-detached property with a front and back garden. Lacing, really fab. I love the bear hug round the midfoot. Really good lockdown achieved straight away. I think this lacing system works a treat. Got lacing pretty much just right. A little give, no runner's knot needed here, my friends. The tongue stayed put like a sticky toffee. It certainly feels like a Pegasus shoe with that dual layer mesh. I'd suggest it's a little more like the 35 actually in terms of its on-foot feel. The heel area, a conundrum. When you do place your foot into the shoe, it does feel like there's considerable room right back here in the heel. There's a huge amount of cushioning there around the Achilles. Almost feels like there's just too much. I can't understand why they've placed so much in there. I could have stored a small cake or something in there. It made me question whether all of that foam was really required. The tongue top is a little padded, an easy feature to miss if you haven't got your Sherlock Holmes hat atop your head. I think it gives a little light relief from the laces, which will be tied up around this area. Definitely a little padded there. Nice. Didn't feel the heel flare. Thus, I think this Guardian Sentinel was doing its job. It's kind of like a referee in a football or soccer match. If you don't really notice them, I feel that they're doing a good job. Pierluigi Collina used to be really good at that, the Italian referee. You should read his book. Very interesting. Whenever he used to go to a city or a town to referee a match, he'd always go to the same restaurant and eat the same meal. I think he said he was only ever late to one match, but he still made it to the game on time. One of my heroes. And he had the stare. So overall, a couple of decimal points knocked off here for feeling somewhat warm on a more easy or easier run for me today. Had to opt for thinner socks, so the stamped socks certainly aren't going to be a goer in this one. I think it might influence your choice if you're in a warmer climate, perhaps an overly cushioned heel area, and that new snug fit. Might be great for some of you, not so much for others. I'd prefer a smidge more room. So I'm going to give this one on my initial review a 2.2 out of 3 for upper. Onto midsole now. So we've got a full-length React midsole in this Baywatch coloured beast. I really didn't get on with the full-length React midsole on the Zoom Fly 3, but you know me guys, I tried to keep an open mind. I really did feel a bit clunky, that one, like a hobnail boot. Here things are a little odd. I'm talking X-Files Fox Mulder odd. On foot that just continues really. The airbag in the front section of the shoe just feels strange underfoot when you first put the shoe on. You really can feel it protruding through the insole. I found in a standing position that I could actually rock left to right if I put my weight onto the front of my foot. It was really weird. When cranking out some miles in this one, you do feel the presence of that airbag. It really does present some quite pleasant cushioning underfoot, just underneath the ball of your foot, I suppose. Kind of feels like it's in 3 sections. I think perhaps to me though, it almost felt like it was overly pressured. Kind of like when you're standing on one of those cheap airflow footballs. It doesn't feel anything like the air units in the Alphafly. At pace, that feeling wasn't quite so present, but I don't think anybody's going to be running at that pace throughout the whole of their training, through a week or a month. They're just not going to be doing that. Did feel today like I was putting in a little more effort to try and get up to my tempo paces than I normally would. Perhaps I was warmer, perhaps the Twiglets and the Bakewell tart were starting to catch up with me. Who knows? You certainly do feel the ridges of that air unit though under the front of your foot, and I can see that being a little bit off-putting to some people. I didn't spend too much time in the heel area of the shoe on this run. I did have some warm-up and some sort of slower stuff at the end of the run, but didn't really spend too much time there, so I'm not really going to comment too much about it. I think overall the implementation of React does seem to be better suited for a sort of daily shoe, such as here in the 37 or the Nike React Infinity run. Don't think this is going to be a shoe for speed work for me, or racing for that matter, but I think it's probably cushioned enough for longer runs and for daily use. So I'm going to deduct a few decimal points off for lack of versatility, I suppose, and that kind of odd feeling under the forefoot. And certainly the React does add some weight here. It's a heavier shoe than last year's model. So on my initial review, I'm going to give this one 2.3 out of 3 for midsole. For those of you that are interested, there's about a 10 gram weight difference between the Pegasus 36 and the new Pegasus 37. onto Outsole now. So top trumps to Nike with the outsole on this one. If they were trying for a super grippy outsole with great traction on almost any surface, then I think they've hit the spot. It worked great on some grass areas I ran through today. Mud, gravel, concrete. Tried to find as many as I could, though I found it really worked best on road and tarmac. Easily the best surface for those. The underfoot feel felt superb on there. When reviewing a shoe, it's good to get some nice secure traction underfoot. And pretty much on every surface I tried it on, the almost trail shoe-like outsole here really worked out. Apart from these very thin slits here in the heel, the outsole didn't really pick up too many small stones or pieces of twig, which really was a hallmark of the Pegasus 35 and 36 outsole. Though I would suggest, as a road shoe, do we really need all of this outsole rubber here? I even hopped onto a trail nearby to my homestead to test the outsole out on that type of terrain, and it was great. Kind of makes me wonder whether you really need a Pegasus 37 trail. I have seen images of one, but I mean there's some serious rubber here, almost like you could use it as a meat tenderizing device. Alas, there were no concentrated moisture zones to test out the traction in the wet. I mean puddles. So we'll have to wait till next time for my views on that. Overall, I'm going to give this one a 2.5 for outsole. It certainly got the touch when it comes to grip, traction and flexibility, but it seems almost like there's just too much rubber there, which is adding a little bit of weight. And the Pegasus series just seems to be getting heavier and heavier year on year. Certainly a versatile outsole though. I don't think I'd hesitate to take that up a very muddy mountainside. It's value time. So obviously I went for a custom Nike by You colorway of the Pegasus 37, and that's slightly more costly, but if we think about the standard cost, which over here in the UK is going to be £104, it's certainly within range of other competitors, other makes and models, like the Hoka Oni Rincon for example, the Asics Novablast, or the New Balance Fuel Cell Propel. It's round about the same weight, perhaps a slightly more race feel to the upper. The use of the Air Zoom unit in the forefoot, certainly an interesting innovation, but I'm yet to be won over by the jump to this trampoline type captured air unit implementation. If you're after a daily shoe, undoubtedly this one's been on your radar, or it is now perhaps. And although it's yet to be fully available worldwide, I do get that feeling that perhaps Nike are looking over their shoulder a little bit now. Asics, Reebok and New Balance catching them up. Would I pick this over the Reebok Energy 2 or the Run Fast 2 in terms of looks? Absolutely. But with the Run Fast 2 available at the same price, I'd pick that any day in terms of performance over this one after my initial run. Maybe I'll come to love this one a bit more, but felt like a solid daily shoe, but nothing really leapt out at me. Those Reebok shoes are crazy value. Way lighter. They might not have the looks perhaps, but it's not what it's about. So in terms of value, after my initial run in the Pegasus 37, I'm going to give it a 2.2 out of 3. It's a weighty shoe, snug fit, seems to be getting smaller in fact as the iterations go. It appears again a little bit bottom heavy. Not everybody's going to enjoy that sensation. Just wondering, why do we need so much react here? I don't know. And I'm left feeling, as I thought I might, that the midsole perhaps is just a little bit too close to that Zoom Fly 3. Doesn't really work for me. Not the greatest score I've ever given. We'll see how it pans out as time goes by. Let me know your thoughts on the Pegasus 37. Have you picked up a pair? How do they feel? Does the airbag feel a bit strange to you in the forefoot? How about that midsole? How's it feeling to you? Let me know in the comments below. I'd most appreciate it. A musical interlude. This album always reminds me of the summer. I remember when I picked this album up, first time on CD, and listening to it with my friends back when I was at college. A fantastic album, The Bends by Radiohead. There isn't a bad tune on this album. Highlights for me are Nice Dream and Just. It seems like at the moment I'm really digging back into the past, looking at lots of very noisy guitar albums. Really enjoying those on the runs actually, rather than more electronic drums and things like that. It's the guitars that are really capturing me at the moment. If you haven't heard this one before, please go out and get it. It was Radiohead's second album. Pretty much all of them are great in their own right. It's time for me to hit the road. Thanks for watching through to the very end of the video. I appreciate it. If you haven't done so, remember to subscribe and click the bell for notifications. Give this video a thumbs up like and share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you. Hey guys, that's 7 miles in the Nike Air Zoom Pegasus 37s. I'm covered in all sorts of stuff, flies and dirt. There's rocks in my shoe. Certainly not feeling 100% today. My stomach's really not right, and I think I came in about 53.30, something like that. So it was about a minute off. Well, it would have been typically, I suppose. It just felt difficult today. Not sure about these. Not sure whether React is for me.